Hello there, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
What we see and hear on the TV does not happen by accident. Mass media affect almost all of our senses, but in particular our sight and hearing, no matter which channel you tune into or what local broadcast you receive. News anchors share one common thing beyond professional attire and perfect hair.
Show nearly 7 out of 10 seniors in the U.S.
Good evening, everyone. Just breaking tonight, Bill and Melinda Gates, two of the richest
reporters who actually break news stories anymore, so you notice when you find one.
They tend to sound exactly the same. How does that happen? Broadcasters didn't always sound so geographically neutral. In the early part of the 20th century, many radio personalities and performers adopted what was known as mid-Atlantic accent.
Katharine Hepburn and Robert Helpman, world-famous stage and screen personalities, arrive in Sydney for an Australian tour of 3 Shakespearean plays.
This polished, proper method of speaking was popular in Hollywood movies on the 1930s and the radio because it signaled some kinds of upper-class education. Simply, British made people sound intelligent.
You seem quite contemptuous of me all of a sudden.
No, Red. None of you. Never of you.
Nowadays, all news people use a general American accent, which is a bit misleading since there is really not much of an accent at all. A form of pronunciation is which no letters are dropped, also referred as Standard American, Broadcast English, or Network English. Most broadcaster training programs offer courses devoted to teaching future announcers how to speak in that instantly recognizable style. Amy Caples, a former news anchor, said, "The thing about working on TV in news, sport, or entertainment, to get a job somewhere you have to sound literally like you're from nowhere." News isn't the only place where we see voices and accent manipulations. Movie and film are another big part of mass media, where we see characters with assigned accents to their role. One of the biggest issues in Hollywood is stereotyping people and the way of their speaking. On the other hand, accents can also be a great tool used to enhance background information about the character. At this point, it is important to note that the use of standard of not standard form of language does not automatically means negative stereotyping in the representation of a character. In linguistic terms, all spoken languages remain equal in other words. No language is better or worse than another. However, it cannot be denied that some value is already assigned to all languages and language ideologies. Because of some of the values has been in our history for so long, people cannot no longer explain why they associate some accent with specific characters in movies. It is very common that villains are represented by people with a strong mixture of Slavic languages. As the professor of film studies at the University of Leicester, James Chapman explains, even before the Cold War, Russia was represented often as a geopolitical threat to the West. The Russians might be the villains of choice right now, but over the decades many different races and nationalities have had their moments in the evildoer spotlight.
Maybe FBI?
Come quietly, Dr. Jones.
Make that KGB.
And bring letter with you.
Around the time of World War II, for obvious reasons, Germans appeared as villains in US films, as did the Japanese.
Now, I don't know about y'all, but I sure as hell didn't come down from the goddamn Smoky Mountains, cross 5,000 miles of water, fight my way through half of Sicily.
Southern accent is an English accent that we can find in southern states. Movies associate this accent with Southerners who do not assimilate to northern norms, and they are often identified as friendly, racist but polite, obsessed with the past, and on the lower bar of education. If they are women, they are sweet, pretty, and not very bright. The inaccurate representation of the southern dialect not only distorts the idea of the dialect itself, but create a stereotype of the southerner as a slow-speaking, a person with lacking formal institutional education.
Morning, Georgia.
Hey, how you doing, Tiana?
Hey, y'all.
We all going out dancing tonight. Care to join us?
Yeah,
come on,
Tiana,
live a little. It's Mardi Gras.
You know I got 2 left feet.
Another example of common accents in Hollywood movies is an Italian accent. Italian Americans may be European in ancestry, but they were not always treated as white people in the United States, as the perversive stereotypes about them demonstrate. Italian American male characters are commonly stereotyped as gangsters or as a street tough.
You come here unannounced on the day my daughter is to be married. And how did you repay my generosity? With a rug made from the butt of a skunk.
These are only few examples of accents that are used not only in American movies but also in the worldwide production. The way we say words matter. In news, important words are highlighted so the viewers pay closer attention to what they listen. Accents and different ways of speaking make the movie to appear more authentic for the viewer, creates diversity, and overall make the movie more interesting. Do movies manipulate our perception of how we picture other nations? I'm sure they do. Mass media has been shaping our belief system since we were born. Everything that we know comes from some type of media. Movies are just one of the tools in the mass media box that are used to entertain, educate, and to communicate.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner.